fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. Hit every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face, and I ain't always been the smartest. But I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people. I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson. I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant, tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retrofit. I guess I'll lit, I guess I'll bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? Tuesday. You know what that means. It's Sports Nonsense and Whiskey coming live to the people. My boys, Pinky, Robert, how you guys doing? Thanks for holding it down last week.
Doing excellent, my man. Doing excellent.
Good, bro.
Glad things are better.
That was a good show. We had a lot of fun, even without you.
Yeah, I caught some of it. I haven't had time to go back and watch all of it, so I do apologize, but I'm bummed I missed it. Looks like you guys had a blast. Glad you guys were able to hold it down and allow Cam in for a little bit of time, I guess.
You know,
he comes and goes. I guess he's welcome still, you know.
He's got the login to log in, so he just shows up, you know, and we love that about that guy. He's a good dude. So, gosh, what do we want to start with, boys? I know anything fun over the weekend, not sports related.
We had a fun little topic last night going between the three of us that I still will claim, you know me, live on an island, die on my hill, but I still believe there's opportunity here. So people just aren't fully thinking about it.
I went to the nerd of all nerds. I've got the answer.
Oh,
well, so here's what we're talking about, people. Last night, I have no idea how we even got on the subject, but somehow we started talking about.
You said Superman wasn't good.
Well, no. I said I've always thought he was a little bit overpowered. Given the situations he faces, they should not be that difficult.
I remember what happened. The news about who's playing Supergirl.
That's how we got there. So Robert, that's right. Thank you. So Robert hit us up with the news of the new Supergirl, and that role has now been cast. Robert, who cast?
Millie Alcock, who, if you all are familiar, it was young Rhaenyra in House of the Dragon. So I said it multiple times in the chat yesterday. I loved her. Her portrayal was excellent. And seeing her go into this DC role,
I really loved House of Dragon until they literally did the fast forward and she was gone. And I was like, I'm out. I'm done.
Yep.
So.
No, I feel a lot of people felt that way, and I did too. But I get it for what they're trying to do with House of the Dragon. They had no choice but to do some time leaps. But I'm really, really excited for her in this. So we'll see what's going to happen.
Solid. So Robert was happy with the pick and the casting. That led us to talking a little bit about Superman. And I basically said, I'm indifferent to Superman. I don't like him. I don't hate him. It just, as a superhero goes, what he does on a regular basis always kind of irked me, because it's like, dude, you're Superman. Yeah, Lex Luthor's really smart, but just like pick up his toy and throw it into space and he's done. Like, there shouldn't be this giant back and forth all the time with what he's doing on Earth. So it always kind of frustrated me as a superhero. And I then said, basically, like, not verbatim, but basically said, like, Anakin Skywalker or any Jedi could kick Superman's ass. That got us debating. We threw up a couple polls on Twitter and Facebook and the like. And to no surprise, the majority said Superman would win. Now, Pinky, you said you went to the nerd of all nerds. So please fill me in.
I think we would agree when it comes to comic books or just kind of nerd knowledge, Andy is really deep.
Okay.
I think
okay,
we
so we went
with
to
that,
Andy.
Right?
Okay.
I asked Andy that, and he said, that's really good idea. He's like, but the answer is Superman. Superman could literally cut off his arms from hundreds of miles away with his lasers. He wouldn't get near him. It'd be over. Superman's even got super speed because he actually races the Flash. Anakin, as much force as you got, he's not going to be able to get out of the way of Superman. It's just not going to happen. Plus, then he said, I brought up your kryptonite. He might use kryptonite, whatever. And then Andy went, but Anakin doesn't use a green lightsaber, so that wouldn't be a thing. So, boom.
So
Superman all day.
I will counter argue all of those points, because I have actually put way too much thought into this, I think.
Well, let's do it. We'll do that next week, because Andy will be on the show next week.
Oh,
Woo!
All right.
I got him on the
the
show pre-Super Bowl. Talk about his Chiefs.
Okay. I will hold my thoughts until next week, but I've got a lot of them and a counter argument to everything you just said, and I think Robert will actually be. I think I might actually impress Robert a little bit with my nerd ability, and I might open his eyes a little bit to my knowledge, maybe more so than he originally thought it was. So that will be fun. I'm looking forward to that. So that was a hot topic last night between the three of us, throwing it up to our social medias to see what the people said. Other than that, over the weekend, football, and just trying to take care of a couple little kids.
Well, I know. I think most of us watched the Royal Rumble on Saturday night. Now we didn't watch it together this year.
Yeah.
But
you'll laugh at this, Pinky. I saw everything but the men's, and I just too much talk from social media and you guys and things of that nature. By the time I was ready to finish the episode, the segment, the pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it, I already knew the answers, and so I didn't really feel like going back and watching the 30-man men's Royal Rumble.
Well, the 30-man men's Rumble was better than the women's Rumble, for sure.
Well, they're both better than last year. I think we can agree on that. Last year was pretty bad.
Yeah, I will say the one problem I have with the men's is it seems like, and maybe I guess it's with the women's as well, like they make sure to get the biggest human beings possible, put them in the ring, and then have them, maybe cause some havoc for a couple minutes, and then boom, they're out of the ring. Like it kind of destroy, like the whole point they're in there is to really create that drama, really like throw tons of people out of the ring. And then how are you gonna beat them? How's a small person gonna beat them? But before we talk about the Rumble match, I think we got to talk about Logan Paul and Kevin Owens. I thought their match was really fun, in my opinion.
I actually really enjoyed that.
I like seeing Logan Paul's athleticism, and just thinking like, wow, like that guy can wrestle. I mean, I know some people might be like, oh, he's a fraud, whatever. He's only been in the game a couple years. That guy can wrestle.
I think you and I have both come a long way on the Paul brothers as a whole. Because when they first came out, 3-ish years ago, pretty much right when we started this podcast, They went from the YouTube to trying to get into the mainstream game of boxing, and that was kind of their jump off point. And we laughed at it at first. And then after a couple fights, we quickly changed our tune and said, you know what? If you can go do this and make your money and people are going to pay for it, do you. Go
make your money, baby.
And we will support you 1,000%. And since then, I think Logan might actually be the better boxer, but he's kind of put boxing on the back to go ahead and do the wrestling, is what it seems like. And Jake has actually stepped up and started doing a lot more of the boxing. But Logan's the one that fought Mayweather and actually looked halfway decent fighting Mayweather. So I'm surprised he's the one that didn't continue. But the fact that he's now doing wrestling, and like Pinky said, he got shot out of a cannon since he came into the WWE, and he's been nothing but spectacular as far as I'm concerned.
He's must watch when it comes to, like, hate him or love him, like whatever. That guy does some crazy cool stuff out there.
Absolutely. I would actually say if I know him and McAfee are on the card, to me personally, that's instant must watch because both of them put on shows. You can love them or hate them, but you cannot deny that when they're in that ring, they're putting on a show for the people. And I really love it.
I really enjoyed that. Even the outcome, I'm not a fan of ring interference. That's kind of what drew me. There was a time, I'm trying to think what time period it was. It was like right before Cena got hot. That it was like every match you watched, didn't matter if it was SmackDown or Raw, all the big matches got interrupted by somebody coming out to the ring and messing it up, causing the disqualification or causing, pulling them off when the ref wasn't looking, whatever it was, right? But it was like every single match. And that's kind of when I started to fade away because I was just like, that's just so old of a storyline if it's happening every time. So I really missed the beginning of the Cena takeoff because that's what was happening. This time I wasn't as off put by it just because of you saw oh, they're coming out to ring, they give him brass knuckles, he's thinking he's going to hit Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens steals it, hits him, and then the ref sees it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of smart. It's backwards disqualification. Logan still keeps the belt. They could kind of keep that going if they want to keep that storyline going. I thought that was fun.
Solid. What else do you want to discuss before we move on from the wrestling?
Well, there's a couple main points. Jade Cargill made her debut. She was one of the top free agents, women's, and she looks like basically a fit Bianca Belair. She is jacked just like her, big just like her, but she is shredded. Shredded. I like bringing her in and then having her win. I don't like that they didn't set it up better. Because in all honesty, you could have been watching that Royal Rumble and see her in it, and you would have been like, oh, who's the B-star standing in the corner waiting to get thrown out? They needed to do more leading up to that to really make sure people understood that she was going to be the next. Yeah. And she's going to battle Belair.
Yeah. I don't personally feel like they did a great job of that. So as I'm watching it, I'm going, looks like a B-star. When's she going to get taught? Oh, she's probably going to make it to the last three, and then something weird's going to happen.
Right.
So I didn't like the way they set it up, but I liked the way that they brought her in, allowed her to win. And the women's division needed some fresh blood.
Absolutely.
They needed something to reinvigorate it a little bit. Bringing back a Liv Morgan or something like that isn't quite doing it anymore. Bianca Belair is played out.
Hold on.
You and I have been saying that the EST is over as far as we're concerned.
Yeah,
so they needed something else. I
don't like the EST. When Liv Morgan comes to town, I'm watching. Okay.
No, don't get. We're big Liv Morgan fans. We like Liv Morgan, but even her coming out when she did was kind of like, yeah, you know what I mean? It didn't have the same feel and impact that it did in the past. It didn't have that same oh, here we go kind of energy, at least for me. So it was nice to see.
Are you seeing that, Robert?
Yeah, I was like, what the heck?
There's
Hey, I was
fireworks behind you, bro.
People love me. I'm back.
Let me do that. Robert, like you were a first-time Royal Rumble watcher. What were your thoughts?
So, I don't know names. I know Logan Paul because obviously, just through the atmosphere that I exist in, I know a lot about him. But overall, thought it was very entertaining. It seemed like the women's event was like a lot of fresh faces. It seemed like, I don't know, it didn't seem as energized.
The two of their biggest draws were not there.
Okay.
Charlotte Flair's out with injury, and Rhea Ripley is the champ, so she wasn't in the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
You know who I was missing, Pinky? And sorry, just to throw this out there real quick, and then Robert, you go right ahead and continue.
No, go for it.
Where's Alexa Bliss?
Right.
Are you done with Alexa Bliss? Like, I mean, that was when I saw Liv Morgan come out. My first thought was, well, damn, you could have had Alexa Bliss a couple people before her and had some of that energy possibly. So
Right.
I don't know, but I like the introduction of the new blood.
And that was one thing, I guess, that was nice because I'm getting to know some new people because I'm just now getting into this. So I'm definitely excited to see how it progresses. The men's was really fun to watch. I messaged you, Pinky. Was it Rhodes? Was his last name?
Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. He seemed pretty cool to watch. Very interesting guy. I watched some of the post conference as well, just to kind of get an idea of the personality. And he seemed like a very humble dude.
He's a down to earth guy.
A lot different than when he was in the WWE his first time around.
Right.
This
Absolutely.
is now his second time. He left.
Okay.
He went and tried to help start AEW, some other ventures. He came back with almost a 180 character flip.
Wow.
Much more along the lines of his dad now than he ever was before.
That's what
His dad
Pinky
was the
said.
American dream. He's the American nightmare, playing on that a little bit. But I like Cody Rhodes now. I will also say Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, LA Knight. Is there any better entrances in the WWE right now than those three?
Those three are probably tops. Absolutely.
I mean, when you
Absolutely
can
agree
get
on
the entire stadium singing or chanting in unison with your intro music in time, that's big time. That's
Seth
stuff that always
Rollins
get me going.
Seth Rollins' intro is freaking epic.
Oh, absolutely.
Epic.
Best one in the game right now by far.
It's I don't know if it's Undertaker. It's not Undertaker level. It's not Stone Cold level. But it might be close to Rock and Cena.
I would say, well, no, because I personally,
Because when the crowd starts singing it,
yeah,
that's when you get the feels. You're like, oh man.
Oh, dude, I agree. I think for me personally, I love the Undertaker, but it's Stone Cold and Cena at the top. Then you've got Undertaker, and from there, I think Rollins is right below those.
We gotta find out
three.
who's doing that. Who gave you balloons?
Now
this
there are
time?
balloons.
I'm not getting balloons. I want some balloons. Come on, guys.
Keep
Put the
up,
front
people. Keep up with the bus. Keep up.
So for the men, Robert, what kind of popped out to you for the men that made it a little bit better than like the women's side?
So just from the knowledge that I had about WWE, I knew it was very athletic, but I didn't realize how athletic. So really seeing the dynamic of what they can do is very impressive.
What's that new guy's name? Caleb, the black guy. Fairly new, I should say.
Was it the dude that had the Mortal Kombat outfit?
Oh gosh.
See, I didn't watch the men, so I'm not.
Oh,
sure.
you didn't watch the men, so you don't. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't Omos. I'm tired of them bringing Omos out for him to just be the big dude, and then
Omos
having him.
is the most unathletic big guy the WWE has ever had.
Like,
That's my personal opinion.
he
He's just superly unathletic, but he
just doesn't serve a purpose, though.
Are you sure it wasn't because like Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits hooked up, so they look a little bit different. Are you sure it wasn't one of the Street Profits?
No, it wasn't one of the Street Profits. It's a newer guy that's come out in the last 6 months or so. And of course, I don't have any signal down in my basement.
I'll do some research. You guys continue.
I'm looking up on Google.
But and now Cody Rhodes has, after Raw, is having to make a decision about facing Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins is telling Cody he should come wrestle him instead of Reigns, which again matches up with what they're trying to do. They're trying to get a match with The Rock and Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 40. That's probably what's going to happen.
That'll be cool. I've actually never seen The Rock wrestle.
So Biggie, I'm glad you brought that up. That was one thing I was going to bring up. I think that was going to be
McAfee was in the Royal Rumble. Maybe I should go back and watch this.
Hold on. McAfee literally jumped over and immediately jumped back out.
Okay. I love Pat. I don't know how anybody can hate on that guy.
So this was literally when Omos was in the ring, and he goes to jump in, and you think he's going to do something, and then he's like, nah, man, I'm out. And he jumps right back out and disqualifies himself. So
the only name on here, Pinky, that I don't recognize, I recognize, but I don't. JD McDonough?
No, not JD McDonough.
Braun Breaker?
So Braun Breaker came from NXT. He put on a good showing. He was going to lead into the next segment about WWE, the last segment about WWE. Braun Breaker was the replacement for Brock Lesnar. Last minute.
I still don't understand why. Oh, well, I do understand, but roll into that segment then.
So this kind of rolls into the Vince McMahon news that came out last week, where he resigned from his position at TKO. And now we currently are in the first time in like 50 years a McMahon is not running the company or part of the company at this point.
Interesting.
Pretty big thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, Biggie, but Vince McMahon recently had a former employee who had already been paid on an NDA to not disclose everything. She was paid $3 million. She only received $1 million, and that's when she said, "Okay, well, I guess if you only paid me $1 million of the $3 million you're supposed to pay me for this, I guess I'll go ahead and spill the beans." And she has now taken him to court for sexual allegations. Carmelo. That might be. I'll have to look it up.
Carmelo Hayes is who I was.
Carmelo Hayes, yes.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking, but I wasn't sure.
Thanks for the assist, Biggie. Yes. He's a fairly newer guy. He did some good stuff in there, but yeah, that's who I was thinking about. So
he's like a mix between the Street Profits and
right.
Who's Kofi Kingston and what?
I don't know who Kofi's partner is, but yeah.
But what's their name? Their
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about, though. Yeah, he's like.
I know, but I don't know enough to spit it out. So, Vince McMahon's former employee has made multiple allegations of basically her boss pimped her out. It's basically
like New Day. Thank you, Biggie. Appreciate you, my guy. Isn't this like the third time she's done this, though, or the second time, or is this completely new from those past ones? That's where I haven't gone down the rabbit hole enough yet.
I want to say this one's new. Like I think she had previously made an allegation. She got paid, or she signed an NDA with the agreement that she'd get $3 million.
Yeah, that's what I thought. This is the same one from like a year ago.
Yes.
They handled it out of court, the NDA. Now he didn't pay her what she thought was due, basically. And now
he was supposed to pay her $3 million.
Yeah, now she's coming out with the dirt. She's like, at first she's like, pay me. Then they didn't pay her. Now she's, yeah. So look, I think all the allegations and based on what's coming out, I believe it's all true. However, based on what's coming out, she also went along with this consensually, based on everything I'm hearing and reading. This isn't a situation where she was forced to do something. It might have been do this or lose your job, but she still had options. She still had choices. And as terrible as this sounds, and I hate saying it out loud, but she made as an adult the decision to go along with whatever this was. Me personally, when I see this and read this, I see someone who goes, I really like this job and I'm getting paid a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and do some questionable moral shit. That's what I'm getting out of this. So I don't really have a lot of sympathy for this female because she was paid to go along with all of these things and she could have very easily said, I'm out. Now, that may not be completely true, but based on the allegations, based on what she's coming out and saying, I'm not seeing anything where she was forced to do something against her will. And that's where I have a hard time siding with the allegations in any shape, way, or form.
I'm still going to go back. I agree. I'm just going to fall on an employer telling an employee to do these things. Again, she probably enjoyed her job. She probably got some really good perks from it. And she probably got spoiled and made a lot of money and all that's good. But still, it's still for, making an employee do things that are pretty, from the reports, they're raw.
Yeah.
They're really raw, of what's out there.
But let's be honest. We've known Vince McMahon was a scumbag since 1990.
Yes.
That's nothing new. So you think about it and you're like, well, based on these allegations, I'd say Vince McMahon has done this NDA and paid people off a number of times before this.
Absolutely.
Right?
Vince McMahon finally resigning is that he had a higher power he was finally reporting to because of this whole TKO deal. There was a higher power he reported to, and he could no longer be like, nah, man, we can fix this.
Right.
They were like, no, we can't. You need to leave. So, bummer for him. I believe The Rock is now getting on the board.
The Rock has already been appointed to the board. Yep, he's already on the board. My guess would be Triple H will be next. He'll be on the board because of his position in WWE, filling in for McMahon. And I actually believe that between him and The Rock, you're going to see a lot of awesome things going forward.
Hopefully. I know Vince McMahon ran a lot of the storylines and what he wanted and all that, even when he wasn't technically supposed to be. So,
final thought on this, Pinky, and then you give yours as well. I will just say that, look, people, we know wrestling is a story that unfolds. We understand that the finishing moves and the punches and things of that nature are not UFC real. But let's be honest. It's real, right? They're jumping off the top ropes. They're landing on each other. They're doing the chops to the chest and everything else. They are physically getting hurt. If you want to talk about how it's a soap opera, I'm good with that because that's exactly what it is. That doesn't mean what's happening during the soap opera isn't real. These men are still, and women, still doing things that are physically taxing on the body. We know all of these things, and that's why we enjoy it and love it, okay? We're not sitting here like little kids going, oh my God, he just got slammed on his face. Oh, his neck's broken. Oh my God, into the steel chair. No, we understand. But I say all that to go down this road. Just shut up about it being fake and enjoy what it is for what it is, right? It is a soap opera. It is entertainment. It is made for TV, if you will. So enjoy it for that. And if you just accept that, you might actually find a lot of entertainment in this stuff, okay? Plus, football season's about to end. There's not a lot else on Monday nights. Set up Raw, watch and enjoy. It's a little bit of fun. You can come talk with us about it. It's not a big deal.
Biggie, I absolutely agree. Roman Reigns does have to go. I could definitely rant on that. I think I'll save that for another day.
Yeah, we've done enough ranting on that in the past.
We've talked enough wrestling so far. We still got some NBA talk before we talk about the NFL. So let's venture into the NBA, Caleb. And I think you put up a pretty good post this week that got some good traction with our followers about defense in the NBA. And what brought about that conversation, Caleb?
So I feel like I fall into this, especially with the NBA and with some other things, but I feel like I fall into this kind of weird middle ground when it comes to the NBA between the new generation, if you will, and the old heads. And I get mistaken for either side a lot. And it's frustrating to me because I feel like the NBA is actually in a much better place than people want to give it credit for. And too many people are worried about what it was versus what it is, rather than seeing the evolution of how we got there. And what I mean by all that, specifically when it comes to defense, Adam Silver recently came out and basically said, like, yeah, we've manipulated the game a little bit to give the guards, if you will, or the smaller players, an ability to showcase their skills without being beat down. That's really what he said. But he also said in the same breath, we understand that we might have gone a little too far to the offensive side, and we need to find a way to kind of bring it back to the middle ground where we give those players the ability to showcase their skills, but we also maintain the integrity of the game where it's offense and defense. It's not just offense. I'm a big fan of Adam Silver. I believe he's done a lot of great things for the game. The game was evolving before he took over. A lot of what we're seeing now is actually David Stern's doing, and people don't want to recognize that. Adam Silver has just been the one to implement or push forward the agendas. So when we look at the NBA and people want to say there's no defense being played anymore, and that's the NBA's fault, it's not. It is honestly not. The fault lies with the players. Defense is very simply effort. In the NBA, in basketball as a whole, all defense is effort. Are you willing to put the effort in to actually try to guard somebody? Are you going to get in a proper defensive stance? Hand up, hand in the middle, legs apart, bent down, slide. Or are you going to stand straight up, reach all the time, and trip over your own feet? That's it. It is that simple when it comes to defense in basketball. There's not a lot of thought in it. You either try or you don't. There's not effort put in.
There is no try.
That's what it is. The guys who try are talked about as defensive experts, and it's evident. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. You look at some other guys within the league that do it more often than not, like a Giannis. Okay, Embiid is considered a defensive stopper. He's actually really not that good at defense. I'm not going to get into that right now because that's not the debate. But it comes down to effort. Guys aren't putting in the effort, so it's going to look like the NBA has caused issues with the rule changes that they've implemented to allow the offense to excel. But really, they didn't implement any rules. All they did is lax the implementation and reffing of those rules.
Well,
traveling needs to be called again. Plain and simple. Traveling needs to be called. Carrying, I don't have a problem with carrying. If you really look at the definition of carrying and what NBA players are doing, it's not carrying the way people want to believe it is. So there are some things here that need to change that the NBA can easily push the agenda for it's just going to be interesting to see whether or not they do it.
My biggest issue is mainly just on consistency. Like, obviously, Nuggets fan, right? Got my Nuggets tattoos. Nuggets fan. I didn't get to watch the game last night because it wasn't on TV, but I watched the highlights of the Nuggets playing and the Bucks. And I saw multiple times Joker's going, he's in the paint. He goes up. He gets in there. He gets his shot. He scores. He gets fouled. No call. And then on like a play that the guy doesn't even get near him, they call a foul. And you're like, where's the consistency on this? And that's one of the issues I see about it is like guys are not sure, like, how can I play defense when I don't know if I go too hard, is it a foul? If I get near him, is it a foul? Like what? Like it's hard for the players to know because truly there's no consistency in what the refs are calling. So you don't know. I mean, to me, if you're standing up straight, got your hands up, and a guy's kind of coming into you, that's fine until he throws the bow into your chest, right? If he's got his back and he's just kind of backing you down, that's fine. And then bow, no good. Come around and literally hand in the chest, no good, right? But they don't call it all the time. So it's like I see guys getting frustrated against Joker all the time because Joker's got all those down low post moves that they're like, he's kind of fouling me, but like the refs aren't like it's so hard for the players these days. And I'll give the players a little bit of grace because the reffing consistency on what they call is just horrendous.
Fully agree.
How do you know how to play defense?
Fully agree, Pinky. And I couldn't have said it better. Plain and simple, the reffing is awful in the NBA right now. It is atrocious.
And Robert, you've kind of started to watch more of the NBA as you've joined the crew here. How do you, from a new perspective, you're new watching the game compared to Caleb and I growing up in the 80s and 90s watching it. What are you seeing?
It definitely seems like there's some hesitation on defense. It almost isn't like it's not as entertaining at times because they're just questioning it. So when you go up to block somebody, it's like what, like you mentioned, what are you supposed to do? And I was reading some of like just some NBA news stuff, and that's one thing that I've been seeing consistently is that the calls haven't been consistent. And when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, if you can't defend, it's just going to be a points for points game at the end of the day, which isn't fun.
So to add to the fire and give you some actual numbers to back up this inconsistency that Pinky's talking about.
Please.
And go figure, it just happens to be the Lakers and LeBron that I'm going to use as the example here. But yes. I think it clearly demonstrates the inconsistency within NBA officiating. The Lakers have shot 234 more free throws than their opponents this season.
Oh my God.
234 free throws. Now, if we're saying everybody's played roughly 50 games so far, I know that number's not exact, but roughly 50 games right now. 234 divided by 50, right? The Lakers are shooting just over 4 free throws more per game than their opponent. Now, this is where it gets real interesting because that doesn't sound like a lot, right? 4 free throws more per game than their opponents. That doesn't necessarily sound like a lot. But break it down like this. They are last in the league in drive attempts to the basket per game at roughly 38. So they are going to the basket and forcing the issue less than anybody in the league. But they have roughly 4 more free throw attempts per game than their opponents.
Which they lost tonight.
Make that make sense. Make that make sense to me.
And how are the Nuggets at the bottom of the list when they run through a guy who plays in the paint?
So, yeah, reffing in the NBA it's atrocious. I'll keep using that word until it's fixed.
Anthony Edwards bashed the reffing on a game he won on how bad it was.
Yes,
and he said, I'll take this fine. The reffing was horrible in this game, and they won.
Damn.
Yeah, there's There's no excuse for what's happening in the NBA today. There just isn't. And it continues to get worse.
And I'll agree. I think Adam Silver's done a good job. I think Roger Goodell's done a good job, right? I think when you advance the sport's growing, and the owners are happy with what you're doing because they keep putting you back in that position, you're doing a good job. I feel like we've now got to the point there's two things they need to fix. A, they need to fix the officiating. They need to get everybody on the same page. How you do that, I don't know. I think we could come up with some solutions. We'd have to think about it, but we could come up with some solutions. And two, they got to do a better job of marketing players not named LeBron. They're getting better, but they're not there yet.
Okay, then yep, we're on the same page then. I will agree. I was going to say I fully believe they're starting to embrace that idea. I think Adam Silver has realized the missed potential there. So your Jokers, your Giannis's,
Luka,
before they were traded, your Siakams in Toronto, things of that nature, they're starting to realize that we made a global game. Why are we only worried about the coasts? If we're global, we can lift up any superstar we want to at any given time and start putting them on the docket for live primetime games. So, Pinky, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think those are two things that should be at the very top of the NBA's list of making sure they address and come up with solutions to implement change.
Robert, what would you, if you were the president, the guy in the NBA, if you were Adam Silver, what's the one thing you would change?
I mean, you just got to let the defense get physical to an extent.
Now, I will say it changes in the playoffs. In the playoffs, they allow for a little bit more physical game.
That's a problem.
That's a big problem because that loops it all back together where you need the consistency, because if you're going to do that, then you need to be held accountable through the rest of the season.
I'd like to see some of that intensity in regular season games. That's what's kind of missing. Because I think if you're not a big basketball fan, I think it's easy to be like, well, it's just the regular season. I'm going to wait till it's more competitive, and then I'll watch that instead of watching throughout the year. Just like with baseball. For me, baseball is boring enough that I normally don't want to watch a full game during the regular season because of how many there are and all that.
Don't let Cam hear you.
Whereas in the regular season or in the playoffs, everything's amped up. The urgency's amped up. The pitching, the moves, everything is just to another degree. That I like baseball at that point. I don't know how they fix it for me to make a regular season game like that. Maybe make less of them. That'd probably be my opinion, but that's what I see. We need to get it to where in basketball the physicality and the back and forth is better in the regular season.
Robert, let me ask you this. Is soccer a contact sport?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. People laugh, but it is. It absolutely is. There's a reason there's such thing called a shoulder tackle.
Yes.
There is a reason that term exists in soccer. It is a physical sport. Whether you want to believe it or not, it is. Now, that's coming from two guys who grew up playing it. So take that for what it's worth. It is a physical contact sport.
And
basketball is the exact same.
Yeah.
Basketball is the exact same. There is such thing as a clean, hard foul. It is a basketball term that has been around since the beginning of the game. The NBA has tried to, over the last decade-ish, remove that term and play from the game. I fully believe it needs to come back. You can foul somebody without it being a technical. You can grab them. You can wrap them up. You can swipe down at the ball while they're going up for it, and it be a clean, hard foul. There's nothing wrong with that. Those are the kinds of things that the NBA needs to realize and walk back the way they've been managing the game to allow some of those things to come back.
I think Biggie makes a good point here. Basketball back to being more physical. We also have players that decide not to play every game, kind of sit.
Well, that leads into the next topic, Pinky. And the NBA is trying to address this situation, which is why there is a game minimum played if you want to win any awards.
Right. And what's the main benefit of winning the awards?
I mean,
besides building your brand,
you get a little bit of extra cash and the clout that comes with it.
Well, if you hit some of those milestones, you can qualify for the Supermax. Like certain,
right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's some financial incentives and then the clout. Joel Embiid, by many people this year's favorite to win MVP back-to-back, is 5 missed games away now from being ineligible for the award.
Which I will say, based on his performance, I actually think he has more of an argument for this year's MVP than he did last year.
We're on the same page there.
He has taken his game to that next level.
He should not have won it last year. It should have been Joker. I'm not saying that as a homer. I'm saying that based on the numbers, but people didn't want to give it to the big white guys, so they went Joel. Fine. I agree, though. This year, he has more of an argument to be the league MVP. His points per game are up. His rebounds are up. His assists are up. The team is winning.
And I'm not even giving him credit for putting up 70 against the Spurs, right? Like, I know he could do that against the Spurs. The Spurs don't play any defense, and they're really bad. So,
however, that big white guy in Jokic is also having a season this year, depending on how you want to look at the numbers, that's better than his 2 MVP years. He is continually getting better and improving his game.
And so was last season. His numbers last season were better.
To the point where Nikola Jokic is the NBA all-time leader, passing Michael Jordan as of a week ago in PER. I'm not going to go into the whole thing right now of explaining to you what PER is, but basically, easiest way to explain it without getting too crazy, it takes everything you do on a basketball court, puts it into a number, and says, how efficient are you? Nikola Jokic, as of about a week ago, is the most efficient player in NBA history, passing Michael Jordan. So keep these things into perspective. It's not like Jokic fell off a map. The dude is still balling and continuing to improve. Same with Embiid. But I fully believe by the end of the year, Embiid will have missed those 5 games. He needs to qualify and will no longer be eligible for the MVP.
After sitting out the last 2, he's got 5 more that he can sit. And
he'll miss those 5 before the season's over.
Absolutely. But he's already won the MVP. He already got that. He put that on his list. It's already checked off. He's got to win Finals MVP now.
He ain't doing it in Philly.
He's not going to do it. But that's where they want to have him, and that's where his goal is now. Because now he's got, okay, I'm better than Joker. I want an MVP.
He's not.
But you ain't got a ring yet. Until you get a ring, you're not better than Giannis, you're not better than Joker, right?
Not just that. You got to go play those guys on their own home court. People want to dismiss that, but that's a serious thing. Embiid hasn't played in Denver since 2019.
And he was supposed to play the other night and didn't, right?
So, look, I get it. I get it.
I'm just putting that out there because I know that. I know some of this, so
they're under investigation for that.
You want to do that, Embiid? Then just come out and flat out say, look, I'm never going to play in Denver. The altitude is too much on my body. That wear and tear, my conditioning, it's not good for me. I'm not going to do it.
No.
Come out and say that, and I'll respect it. But if you're going to continuously, what it looks like right now, duck Jokic at home, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And until he comes out and says otherwise, based on his actions, he is ducking Jokic in Denver. Even Brian Windhorst has come out and said that now, who was one of the biggest proponents of Joel Embiid.
Yes, big time.
So if your biggest fans are going to come out and say that same thing now, you got an issue. And if you are supposed to be an all-time great, I don't care if you're nicked up. You better show up and go play that guy on his home court and prove it. And until you do, you will never hear me say Embiid is the top dog.
You know why? You know why he decided not to play.
He's a badass. He's really good. but he will never be in my top 5, maybe even not my top 10 in the game today if you're going to do that kind of stuff.
When Tyrese Maxey got called out and their third guy, I'm drawing a blank on it right now. Tobias Harris got called out. They were both out for the game. I knew he wasn't playing. As soon as that happened, I was like, because he's not going to go in there with the backups and play. And funny enough, the backups gave Denver a game. So if he had played, he probably would have beat Joker on his home floor.
Nah, because what's Denver notorious for, Pinky? Over the last 5 or 6 years, they've been notorious for playing down to competition and playing up to competition. They'll take some games off if they know they don't have to go out there and give it their all.
Well, they couldn't stop. They couldn't stop Pat Beverly, or God, I'm trying to remember his name. He hit every. And I mean, they played some defense on him, but he hit everything. Their other guy that was just like he scored like 20-some points. It was nuts.
But who won the game? Who won the game?
Nuggets won the game.
Yeah, and they played terribly. They played down to the level of their competition and still squeaked out the dub. So I'm not. If MB would have played, they would have played better. Like I just fully believe that that's what this Nugget squad is about now. They are all about postseason, not regular season. And I believe at this point, they fully believe as long as they're within that top 4 of the West, they don't care where they fall within that top 4 because they believe they can go anywhere and beat anybody at any given time.
They need number 1 though, because they do play tremendously better at home.
It helps, but I believe, especially after last year, they don't think they need home.
I feel like the Nuggets and Celtics are like almost similar teams in the fact that the Celtics play really good at home, and if you look at their road record, it ain't that great. Nuggets, very similar. They play really good at home, and their road record's not as good as it should be.
Okay, I get it. I get where you're coming from, but this is where I'll disagree. And I've said it before, and I know I've had pushback from other people. That's only because they don't want to actually listen to what the argument is, and they want to make excuses for players. The Celtics and their superstars are the most inconsistent superstars in the NBA, maybe in the history of the NBA, which is why they've continuously failed in the biggest moments. The Nuggets don't have that inconsistency from their superstars. When the lights are the brightest, they always show up.
It's a fact that Nuggets have the best starting 5 in the NBA. That's not even debatable. They have the best starting 5. The way that they play as a group. Maybe like you could argue like Beal, Booker, Durant are better, and you add whoever else is on there as a top 5. You could maybe argue that. But as a cohesive unit of players that play together, the Nuggets top 5 are the best in the NBA.
Facts. I'd actually say Boston's second. Even though I think they're inconsistent, I would say Boston's starting 5.
Well, if Porzingis is healthy, the Celtics are definitely second.
I'm not even thinking the addition of Drew Holiday was so huge for the postseason. I don't think people truly understand it yet. When that postseason rolls around and you can throw out Drew Holiday, who arguably is the best perimeter defender in the NBA today, you can throw out Tatum and Brown and Horford. Porzingis is going to play off-ball defense, not necessarily great defense as a whole. Those other 4 dudes can play on ball solid. That's huge. That's huge. It's just the problem is their offense is so inconsistent it doesn't matter.
All right, Biggie, we're going to do you a favor. We are going to move on. I got to come back to your Michael Jordan comment. I don't know if he break 100, but I know he's going to average 40 to 50 in today's NBA. And people always talk about that. I'm like, you don't understand. Michael Jordan didn't shoot threes, but he could. If you change the game to where he could shoot threes, he would. And the fact that he could get to the lane at any moment and you can't touch him, he's spending all day at the free throw line or he's spending all day with and ones. So I definitely think Jordan would do 40 to 50. No doubt. Robert, what do you I don't know. Were you a Jordan guy? Did you see any Jordan? I know you're pretty young.
I've watched a lot of like replays and stuff, and just again I grew up watching Space Jam, so that was like some of my big Michael Jordan things. I've always liked him in his interviews and how he's conducted himself. And I'll be flat out and say it between two. I'm a huge LeBron James hater. I fucking can't stand LeBron. But I like Michael Jordan, and I think it'd be interesting for his level of play then and today with their rules would be very interesting because he was a rough baller back in the day.
Even in today's game, I don't see guys do what Michael Jordan did.
No way.
And I'll make this kind of, comparison. It's like watching Barry Sanders. To this day, we have not seen anybody move on the football field the way Barry Sanders could. Jordan was the same way on the basketball court. We still have, to this day, have not seen a guy who could move, dribble, spin, go up to the hoop, dunk it on you. Like his moves and the ability to score from any point on the court. I mean, consistently.
Cheers, Pinky. I like that analogy.
I thought you might like that one because I keep looking for it and I'm like, I just don't see it. I see it. The NBA today has a lot of guys that are good scorers and they just don't have that. In today's game, if they had that, what Michael Jordan had, they would be unstoppable because you can't touch them. So they'd be getting to the basket, getting up, getting their 2 points, and going to the free throw line every time. Kobe had some of it. I will agree. Kobe did have some of that. And Billy's right. Jordan's defense, too. Jordan played both sides of the court. God, I love Jordan. I'm a Jordan guy.
I'll finish the basketball with this. I will finish the basketball with this. For me personally, and I'm going to be honest, if you play basketball and you don't feel the way I'm about to explain, I don't care who you are, you weren't that good at basketball overall. And this goes for all the way up to the top to the NBA. AAU and the whole idea of talent over fundamentals has crumbled the game in the United States to the point where we're trying to rebuild it now. But this is what I'll say. There is nothing, and Pinky, I played all the sports growing up. For my money, there is nothing in sports like shutting down the other team's best player and then going and scoring on him the very next possession. There is nothing that compares to it in sports. Can't do it in football because you're not playing both ways. Soccer doesn't have the same level of aggressiveness when it comes to possession change. So you don't get that same feel of shutting down and then going and scoring. Baseball definitely doesn't have it, and I'm not even going to get into that. Hockey is the closest, but the way hockey is built more like soccer in the sense that goals are a premium, you don't get the same feel of a shutdown and then own situation. So for my money, and someone who played all the sports growing up, I thrived on the feeling of, I'm going to lock you down. You ain't going to do nothing. And then I'm going to come back and shove it down your throat the very next possession. Nothing compares to it. And the fact that you don't see that more, especially at the highest level of the NBA, has always driven me bonkers.
Larry Bird, man.
So yeah. You can talk about
some history, but
people will talk about how Bird is not the greatest defender. You know what he was, though? Arguably the greatest off-ball defender of all time. He may not shut somebody down directly on ball, but he'll find a way to impact it another way. So he at least put in that effort, okay? But I'm specifically talking about, and I know everybody's seen this. Everybody knows about it, whether you played basketball or not. But you got a guy coming down, defensive stance, clap, slap the floor, and you're right back up. And that sound, that noise alone is a mindset. And it lets the other team know that you're not going to be lazy. So that to me is something that we need to see more of. And the reason we don't see it is because coaches at the youth level are trash. Plain and simple. There's more trash coaches at the youth level than there are quality representation of the game. And until that changes, you're not going to see that come back, unfortunately.
All right, Caleb, we agree on a lot tonight, man.
My guy.
We need to start arguing some more.
It's coming. We're about to talk football.
We're about to go into football, so it's about to say it's there.
It's coming. I'm about to go back to my island. Don't worry.
All right. So where do we start, Caleb? Where do we start?
Start with the first game, the Chiefs game.
I want to start with this, Pinky. Overall, kind of enveloping feeling, thought, summary, if you will, of the weekend. You know I hate saying this, Pinky, and I don't fully even believe what I'm about to say, but over the years, I think you'll agree that this is not something I like saying or that I fully agree with, but at the same time, I believe there's truth to it. I believe both games were lost, not won.
Cheers, baby.
Hot damn. Let's roll.
We're on a roll tonight. You're going to get me drunk, bro.
Overarching thought. Now, where do you guys want to start? Robert, you want to start with the first game?
Let's just start with
Let's
the
go.
Chiefs, man, because I got some thoughts and fucking opinions for the Lions, and it's not going
Well,
to be
Robert, you've been quiet so far. You tell us, baby.
Fuck the Chiefs, man. That's how I'm going to start that.
Oh!
Sorry, Eddie. He's coming out hot. Coming out hot.
And Pinky and I kind of had this conversation very, very briefly, and I just want to touch on it. Is, kind of some, going back to some of the NBA things with some of the play calls were made. It sometimes went in favor of the Chiefs, and it was really fucking annoying. I mean, that wasn't what cost the game by any means.
I hear
However,
you.
But
I'm going to say, Robert, I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one particularly. There is only one call that I saw that the Chiefs got. It was on their very first drive. It was the holding call on their wide receiver. The guy kind of hits him at 5 yards, and then they call it, and he doesn't touch him at all, and the guy stumbles and fell down, and Mahomes threw it deep to him. It was on the very first drive. I don't remember who the receiver was. I was like, that's not holding. He hit him right in 5 yards, and then the guy stumbled. So normally,
easy, Billy. We'll get there. Easy. Don't.
Hold on.
Don't
hold on,
everybody
Billy.
in the same
Hold on.
boat. Hang on. Just wait for the wait for the whole conversation.
Robert, I will say in the past, Kansas City has gotten some calls in the past. I don't feel like they've gotten calls in this year's playoffs like they have gotten in the past.
That's fair.
This year, they have won by allowing the other team to beat themselves and not making mistakes. And I will tell you, I give them the utmost respect and credit that I'm like, the last team that did that, well, shit, they won 6 Super Bowls. Why did they do that? Because they didn't beat themselves. The New England Patriots are the greatest dynasty of all time because they did not beat themselves. They got some calls along the way. We know that. We've got the whole tuck rule thing, and we've got the 28-3 and Shanahan kind of being dumb. There's a lot, Pete Carroll not running the football, whatever. Like, they've got some breaks that went their way, but they usually did not beat themselves.
No, and that's fair. And that's one thing I was going to lead into is that we brought that up the one time, and I just wanted to touch on that. But really, for me, it was Flowers that cost them the game. Flowers cost the Ravens. There were just too many drop possessions for him on his plays. Dude needs to hold on to the ball. Because they had it in there on that last play, and he just let it go. Plain and simple. He did not.
Well,
he went for the.
Sometimes defenders make really good plays too.
Sure.
He did reach it out, which when you put it out, you're putting it at risk. But the defender made a good play as well. So
that too.
There was only one.
I'm gonna run in here. And then Pink, you jump. I'll just give my. I'll try to be as concise as possible here with this game. Billy, you're right on half of that. Take out interceptions, and that should be the statement. Baltimore threw the ball too many times. Todd Monken came up with what I believe is the worst offensive game plan and then subsequently the worst in-game play calling I have seen in an NFL game in the last decade, to the best of my memory. That whole game plan, that whole play calling was beyond terrible. You hold the Chiefs to 0 points in the second half and you still lose that game. Lamar Jackson has no business throwing the ball over 40 times.
Hold on.
Offense has no business throwing the ball over 40 times.
You hold a team to 17 points total, whether it was first half or second half. You hold them to 17 points in today's NFL, you should win that game.
Yeah, agree. So
what happened to the Broncos last season?
Here's the deal. I hear people talking about Lamar didn't show up. I hear people talking about Lamar doesn't handle his business in the playoffs. Blah, 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 blah. No. When you come up with a game plan that is that terrible and does nothing to elevate the strengths of your players, Pinky, what do I always say a coach's job is?
To use their players and what they do best.
Put them in a position to succeed. Did Monken do that in any shape, way, or form for that Baltimore offense? Hell no.
Absolutely not.
Taking a step further, John Harbaugh, I love you, but you got some blame in this too because you are the head coach. So regardless of whether or not you are an offensive mind, you should still be going to your play caller and saying, what in the hell are we doing? Our running backs have only touched the ball a handful of times? Unacceptable. Lamar Jackson is throwing into triple coverage because your game plan was strictly for a man-to-man scheme, and you didn't think the Chiefs were going to do zone? You didn't think the Chiefs and Spagnuolo were going to be smart enough to run a zone and a spy with Lamar Jackson to fill those lanes and keep him from getting off on those runs? You didn't think about that? You didn't game plan for that? That's on you. Yes, the players didn't play well. However, the players cannot play well if the plays you are calling are utter trash.
So, what got Baltimore this far? What made them so dominant?
Their rushing game.
How many rushes did they have from running backs in this game, Robert? Do you know?
It was only I was going to say like 3 or 4 was what I thought.
6. You are the top rushing team in the NFL.
And
you run the ball 6 times? Are you kidding me?
It's not like you were getting blown out. It's not like the game was so far out of reach that you had to throw and make up.
Bro, I'm still confused. Why did you pick up Dalvin Cook? How many times did he get the ball in this game?
The only thing I can think of, Pinky, is the Jets realized it, which is why they ended up cutting him. Baltimore thought they could do something and then realized that they were wrong. Dalvin Cook's done. Fell off the cliff, age 30, whatever you want to call it, he's done. And they didn't realize it until they got him in the building. That is the only explanation for not getting him touches. Because last year, the dude looked pretty good still.
He did.
So my mind is boggled why you wouldn't use him in that Ravens
offense. And again, I would still give him a little bit of grace because that Jets offensive line is garbage. And they had Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, whoever was behind center, like it didn't matter. They were garbage too. So you could put 8-9 in the box and just say dare them to run the ball. They're not going to. And they can't pass the ball. So again, I didn't know if Dalvin Cook was truly washed based on the situation he was in. Because Breece Hall looked good at times, and then at times he got stopped because that O-line is that bad. I would say Breece Hall's got better legs right now than Dalvin Cook. So, Baltimore beat themselves.
So, yeah. And what I will say is I threw out some thoughts before the game on what I felt each team needed to do game plan wise to win the game. I feel like Baltimore did nothing on the offensive side of what I said they needed to do to win. On the defensive side, they did exactly what I said they needed to do to win. Yeah, absolutely. You held the Chiefs to 17 total points and 0 in the second half.
To a point, though. They would have held them to less points if they would have guarded Travis Kelce.
Or if their offense would have just been able to keep them off the field for a little bit.
That might have helped a little bit, too.
But like you said, Pinky, you allow a team only 17 points in the NFL, you should win that game. Especially a Patrick Mahomes-led Andy Reid play-calling offense.
If a team doesn't score 24 on you in today's NFL, you should win that game.
So I feel like Baltimore's offense did the exact opposite of what they needed to do to win. I felt like the defense did exactly what they needed to do to win. On the other side of that ball, though, while I'm bashing Baltimore and saying they lost the game rather than Kansas City won the game, I'll give credit where credit's due. Kansas City knew exactly what they needed to win, and they didn't try to force the issue. Just like Pinky said earlier, they forced the other team to make mistakes, and then they capitalized on it. Mm-hmm. More power to you, Kansas City. On top of that, you did exactly, in my mind, they did exactly what I said you needed to do to win the game. You got Rashee Rice the ball on multiple levels of the defensive side. You ran the ball really well with Pacheco, and that opened up Travis Kelce to be Travis Kelce. On the defensive side of the ball, I was exaggerating when I said they should be looking for no sacks, right? I was exaggerating in that sense, meaning you should be playing nothing but contain. That's what you should be doing on that defensive side of the ball. And Kansas City, to a T, played that type of defense to keep Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens from succeeding. Now, the last point I'll say with Baltimore, and I will continue to pound the table for this, and it will blow my mind until they do it. You have 2 studs at tight end. You have average wide receivers and a great run game. Why are you not running? I believe it's called 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, running back, wide receivers. Why is that not your base offense for every single goddamn play? Todd Monken, you're an idiot and you deserve to be fired. Period. I'm done after a year. I don't care what we saw from Lamar Jackson. I don't care that he's about to win the MVP. As far as I'm concerned, what I saw from that play caller this season, get rid of him and go find somebody else who's going to do it right. Because it's not him. It's not him. You should have been knowing that you were about to encounter a zone defense. You should have been knowing that running those 2 tight ends out there would have gotten space. And you should have known that that run game was what's going to open up everything. So Baltimore, you screwed up. Kansas City, you did exactly what you were supposed to. That's how I saw the game.
And this comes back to one of the things about Kansas City. And I'm going to give them more flowers next week. I got more things I want to say, but I'm going to hold it till next week when Andy's here. Andy Reid's just a good coach.
Damn right.
Really good coach. And I think one thing I don't know if it's this game, the playoffs, but he got Mahomes just to not try to make those plays that Mahomes might have tried to make that may have created turnovers.
The evolution of greatness is what that is, Pinky.
So,
knowing you don't have to do everything. When Josh Allen takes that same step, watch out for Buffalo. Now, that also requires the Buffalo play callers and head coach to have the same mentality, which I don't think they have yet. But when that evolution comes, that's that next evolution of greatness where you know you can win different ways.
So hats off to Kansas City. They did what they had to do. They're going to their 4th Super Bowl in the Patrick Mahomes era, and they have a chance to go back-to-back. That goes a long way. So,
Billy, I appreciate the greatness. Pinky will hate on it all day simply because of
hold on.
Wait, I got you. Hang on, I got you. Pinky will hate on it all day because of his orange. He will. And I respect that. But you will never hear Pinky hate on the greatness itself. The man has too much respect for the game as a whole and too much love for the game as a whole to not respect the greatness. But Pinky's also one of the best fans you will see. And so he will still show that animosity towards a rival.
So, Robert, you were with me during the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know I was rooting for the Ravens. And we all know why I was rooting for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Who was telling Andy the Chiefs are going to win this game?
You. The whole time.
What is Andy saying the whole time during the game?
That they're going to lose.
Andy's the worst Homer fan I've ever met in my life.
I love him. I love it.
God. That guy, I continuously try to talk some sense into that man, but I've never met anybody who was that big of a fan of a team that was so sad when they actually won. like he almost pouted that the Chiefs won Super Bowls because he's worried about them not being able to do it again. Like, my guy, just be happy.
Right? It happened.
Happy.
Dude, that's why I relished when Germany fucking won the World Cup back in 2014, and they've been shit ever fucking since.
I like that Andy is he's always looking towards the future. He's also looking at, he wants to dominate versus just being good enough to win, right?
Look, from my experience, if Andy's team doesn't play a perfect game, that dude is going home with his head held low.
Absolutely true.
It is a crazy dynamic.
Look, and it hurts right now as a Broncos fan where we've sucked for 8 years straight. And he's bitching and complaining about his team won, but they didn't win by X amount or they played poorly here or there. The other team should have won. You won. You won. We don't know that feeling. The Broncos just don't know that feeling of we won. And we would take that any day of the week. We won. So, Andy, I love you, buddy. Thank you for your hospitality. We had a great time. And we still got one more game to talk about.
Which we'll do that next week, right? We're not going to talk about it now. That's a next week conversation.
Well, no, we still got the 49ers-Lions game to talk about.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I was about to say, are you really about to just move on without the Lions here, Caleb? Come on.
Like,
no, when you said one more game, I thought Pinky was specifically talking about the Super Bowl as a whole for the season kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure that that's a next week conversation. We're not getting into that this week. Okay.
That's a next week conversation.
Okay. Well, then proceed to the second game of the weekend.
All right, Robert, go ahead and lead us in. Tell us about the game.
Well, first and foremost, it's awesome Ben Johnson's staying. I'm just going to start off with that, and we'll get that out of the table because that's at least the only good news we're going to talk about this whole time.
I love it.
This whole time. I'm very excited for that. I really think that's going to give the Lions a step up going into next season. So I am hopeful that we have somewhat of a similar path that we did this last season.
I'll throw this out there real quick. I don't think I love it for his career path. As a Lions fan, I'd be stoked. But if I'm talking about Ben Johnson as a single entity, I think he's making a giant mistake.
Hold on. Would you rather have the Commander's job now or the Cowboys job next year? Or who else is probably close to getting fired?
Seattle?
No, they're hiring a new coach this year. So that Philly. Would you rather have Philly and Dallas over the Commanders?
No, personally, I'd rather have that Commander's job right now, based on the fact of that new ownership group and what they are known to be about, and the fact that you're walking into a team that has talent. They're not deprived of talent. They're not bottom of the barrel fishing for something. There's weapons on that team already that you can build with and work from. And with that ownership group, I think Johnson's making a huge mistake not taking that job. I think he wanted more than he's worth. And people kind of scoffed at that.
I don't know if the money's I don't think money was the issue in this case.
Based on what I'm hearing, the Commanders didn't want to pay his asking price, and they wanted to negotiate it, and he said no. Basically saying, I can go back to Detroit if I want to, and I'm happy there. I think it's a huge mistake for his career, personally, because what's going to come available next year as far as coaching opportunities, I fully believe right now are not going to be as opportunistic as what the Commanders are offering right now. Side note, we can talk about it more.
I think that Cowboys job's not too bad.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
You get anonymity. I'm not saying that right. I know I'm not. You get
Autonomy.
Autonomy. Thank you. Wow. You get autonomy as a head coach with the Commanders. You get told what to do in Dallas.
Maybe he's not ready.
Maybe. Sorry. Took us.
No, you're good. But that was, again, I just want to at least get that out of the way because that was super exciting for the Lions today. The game. I said it was going to be a battle and knew it was going to be. Historically speaking, when the Lions have lost, it's only been within points. It's never been a massive blowout or anything like this. And what kills me for this as a whole is, and I get that that's not how they played the whole season, 1 field goal. 1. It would have tied it up at least, and there would have been something else maybe that would have happened. Who knows what? 49ers maybe still come on top. That's who I even picked anyway to win the game, but I was still going to pull for the Lions. I think that Dan Campbell missed that. And I know he brought it up in the conference in his interview. And that's not how they played. And he's absolutely right. But at least one. At least one. To get it tied. Because then you're at least going to have a chance to reset. Each team gets a possession, if I'm not mistaken now, right? So
yes.
Unless there's a touchdown.
That's the...
Actually, no. In the playoffs, even if it's a touchdown, both.
Oh, you're right. Yep, that's right.
Regular season,
the Josh Allen rule. Yep.
Josh Allen rule. Regular season, team scores a touchdown, is over. Playoffs,
you're right.
Both teams get a chance.
I still hate NFL overtime.
We haven't had that. That hasn't come up yet in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. NFL overtime rules are a joke. Plain and simple. They're just terrible.
And again, I like the idea of at least each team getting a possession because that at least gives a reset. Just like it does in soccer. If it goes into that's how Germany won the World Cup. Is it went into double overtime and they played both sides of the field. Again, totally different scope of what happened, but contextualizing it, that's where I'm coming from. And if you're gonna go for a game, at least take a game to overtime when it comes down to the wire, which is exactly what happened here.
Caleb, do you want to jump in first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I have a feeling I should probably go last, and then you guys can dissect everything I say. So you go right ahead, my guy.
So I'm not gonna kill Dan Campbell for his decisions.
I'm not killing him either. I just want to make that clear.
He called the game the way he's called every game this season. Now, I think when you get to the playoffs, I think you have to change a little bit, but I can't fault him for playing the way he's played. Now, again, I feel like there's the analytics, and then there's like momentum, and I don't think analytics takes into account momentum. I don't kill him for the first decision not to take the field goal. And if Josh Reynolds catches that ball, we're not even maybe we're not having this conversation, right? So at least that decision should have worked because they had the play call, they got the ball to the guy and got it to his hands. He didn't catch it. The second one, which is the one you're mentioning, is the one I have the problem with. You're down 3. 4th down. You're a little, I think it's right about the same range. I kick it. I kick it to tie the game. That doesn't mean they win. 49ers have been rolling in the second half. Maybe the 49ers go back down and score anyways. Maybe it's a mute conversation point. But I kick it and tie that game and force the 49ers to do that, right? And again, there was still, at that point, there was still quite a bit of time in the fourth quarter. 49ers kind of got and scored, and you still would have had the ball back and had a chance to score. So it changes the possibilities of the game. What I will give Dan Campbell some grace for is Michael Badgley is a really bad field goal kicker. And he's pretty bad at over 45 yards. So there's no guarantee Michael Badgley makes that kick, even if he did make that decision to kick it. But we don't know. So it hurts for the Lions a lot, right? They haven't been here in 30 years. There's no guarantee they get here next year. The NFC is going to get better. It's not going to be as easy.
Nope.
So I'm not going to kill Dan Campbell for his decisions. I don't think that was a complete outcome. I also feel like some of that play calling by Ben Johnson got a little conservative. You've got Laporta, Amon-Ra, Sun God. You've got Jahmyr Gibbs, and somehow you don't make any big plays with them in the second half when you were rolling in the first half. Why is Jared Goff throwing to Josh Reynolds on a 4th down play when you need to have it? Why is Laporta or Sun God not the guy that you're getting the ball to? Right? So those are some other ideas. And again, the Lions defense isn't great. 49ers offense can score on anybody. I don't care how good your defense is. They can score on you. So the floor is yours, Caleb.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm ready for Caleb's hot takes.
I'm going to try to bullet point this, and then you guys can come back, ask questions, whatever you want to do. We'll discuss from there. I'm going to try to concise this as much as possible. First off, man, I love everything Dan Campbell did. Absolutely love everything he did. Secondly, we're talking about 2 4th down and goes. 2. Everybody is acting like he did it 30 times this game. It was 2. Both were the correct play call. Or let me back up. Both were the correct decision. One, the first one was the right play call. Player didn't execute. Second one was the right decision. Bad play call by Ben Johnson. Was not able to execute. Should have known Chiefs were going to bring pressure. You should have known. You should have had an outlet, and it should have been a quick outlet for those 4 yards. Here's the deal.
Oh, Cam, no.
Cam, you're going to shut your mouth right now, because if Dan Campbell needs to go, Sean Payton never should have been fired. Don't even get me started tonight. That play call, he's just trolling. That play call in the second one was bad. Anybody saying take the points, and I don't mean this in a you're actually this kind of way. I just mean this in the thought process. For me, the thought process of take the points is idiotic. You're talking about a 48-yard field goal.
Walks 48. Are as good as hits.
You guys are talking a 48 field goal is guaranteed points. I am so tired of hearing people say that. Hold on.
For most, and again, you may not be wrong in this situation. For most teams who have a field goal kicker that is at least 85% from 45-ish to 50 yards, it would have been a great decision. For this field goal kicker, maybe not. But he's probably still at least 60 to 70% from that range. And that's still a point of maybe we should tie this game up instead of giving them the ball back up 3. And again, they went and scored a touchdown. So
no, No, it's a 48-yard field goal. It's a 48-yard field goal. It's not guaranteed points. This is not a chip shot. The man wanted to step on the throat of the Tiger. That's what Dan Campbell was trying to do all game.
So that was the first one. The first one.
All game. If they get that fourth down conversion and go in and score a touchdown, it feels like they win the game. That's what he's trying to do. This man is trying to put his team in a position where they feel like they are unbeatable. And he tried to do that all year. This was nothing new. I don't want my coach changing his mentality in the playoffs. I don't want him changing the way he's calling a game in the playoffs just because it's the playoffs. No, I want my dude to do the same thing he did all year that put us in the position to be in the playoffs. That's what Dan Campbell did. Here's the second thing I will say, bullet point down. Ben Johnson called an atrocious second half. This is why I say that. Brock Purdy threw a total of 31 times in this game. The Niners were down how much at one point? 17? 17? They were down 17, and Brock Purdy threw the ball 31 times that whole game. Guess how many times Jared Goff threw the ball that whole game?
41.
40 freaking 1. Why are you throwing the ball in the second half when you are up? When you are up, and that run game is averaging over 5 yards a carry. What are you doing?
I believe
Did
we call that.
Did you watch the Super Bowl 28-3? Did you miss that?
I believe we call that getting cute.
Terrible, terrible play calling. And this is where I will get on Dan Campbell a little bit. You want to step on their throats? You do it by running the ball down their throats. You go to your offensive play caller and you say, hey, Ben, Jared Goff don't need to be throwing the ball anymore. Montgomery and Gibbs are going to run us home. And it should have stayed that way. Should have stayed that way. So Ben Johnson, yeah, just like Pinky said, you got cute and cost your team the game. Dan Campbell, you didn't step in as the top dog, as the end-all, be-all decision maker and say, hey, guys, we saw this happen with the Patriots and Falcons. Don't let it happen to us. Start running the ball again. We're up. Burn the clock. Degrade their integrity. Break their moral compass. Run it down their throats. They're not stopping us. The 49ers D, let's be honest, it's not that good. It is an average defense at best.
The Packers made that very clear.
So that's bullet point number 2. Terrible play calling in the second half from that offensive coordinator. The final thing I'll say about this is the fact that when I look at the overall totality of the game, when I look at the overall decision-making of the game, what I really saw was a Detroit defense that's not ready for the big moment. And until they address that in the offseason, they will not be able to take that next step no matter how good that offense is because they'll always allow the other team to stay in the game. That's not a knock on the defensive play calling. That's not a knock on the head coach. That's not a knock on the defensive players. They just simply don't have the same level of talent on the defensive side of the ball that they have on that offensive side of the ball. And so that needs to be their biggest address in the offseason is bringing in guys to assist basically Aiden Hutchinson, right? If we're being honest.
Absolutely.
So love everything about Dan Campbell. I think he made the correct decision on both of those fourth downs. One, the player didn't handle his business. The second one, the offensive play call was terrible. Bad play calling in the second half. You should have been running the ball. Jared Goff has no business throwing it 41 times that game. And then finally, and just simply, the defense just isn't up to par yet. They're just not. So that's my takeaway from the Detroit side. On the 49ers side, in all honesty, this is what I'm going to say. There are 3 possessions in consecutive order that sum up the game and cost the Lions and allowed the 49ers to kind of slide in under the radar. It goes like this. You have a drop by Reynolds on a 4th down conversion. That hurt. The very next possession, the 49ers throw a bomb that should have been intercepted and bounce off the defender's head right into Ayuk's arms.
Have you seen the stills from that?
Hang on. We'll get there. Hang on. So drop ball on 4th down. Interception missed. Caught ball by Ayuk leads to a touchdown. And then the very next possession, Gibbs fumble. That's 3 consecutive possessions that sum up the totality of that game. 49ers, I love you. You played well enough to win the game. You did not go out and win the game. Detroit gave it to you, and you just capitalized on it. No different than what Kansas City did with Baltimore. And more power to you. The great teams capitalize on other people's mistakes, and they come out victorious. So I'm not trying to downgrade what San Francisco did, but they were beat, and the other team allowed them to come back and win. So when you look at those 3 consecutive possessions, Detroit, 49ers, Detroit, that summed up the totality of that game for me and allowed San Francisco to then move forward into the next round.
Yeah. I mean, I love McCaffrey. I love Debo. I love Kittle. I like Purdy's story. I'm excited for him. I was rooting for the Lions. I'm not sad that the 49ers are going. I think they're a good team. They haven't played their best football in the playoffs, though. And that's what's scary. They haven't played their best football in the playoffs. So, before we make any other comments, does anybody want some show and tell? Anybody?
Show and tell?
Little pinky show and tell?
Oh, yeah, let's see it. I know what you got. Let's see
That's
it.
what I got today in the mail.
Oh, very nice.
Super Bowl 58, baby.
Good
Yeah,
deal.
that's sick. I
That's
like
awesome.
I bought a little bit smaller size so I can frame it. It's a little bit harder to frame when it's XXL, but
Appreciate you, Cam. Appreciate you, my guy.
fuck that guy.
Also, Cam, yes, I do have a head. It does have hair. It was just, I look like a hobo, and I don't need the internet world to see that.
He got a haircut, so he's like, I'm cool now, so I can show it off.
I'm a human again.
You don't want to go. You don't want to go here, Cam. You don't
It's
wanna-
not.
I just got over that, Caleb. I
people
don't
see
need to
it.
go back there.
Let the people
Bro.
see it.
That Caleb was worse when he had that. Plus, he looked like a mountain man.
Oh yeah, dude, the homeless new dad look. That was something else for sure.
That was cold, bro. That was cold.
That was something else.
49ers Chiefs Super Bowl. It's a rematch.
No, we can't
Penn
talk about that's got to be
State.
all next week.
Hold on. We're not
I
talking.
got too much to cover on that.
It's a rematch. I feel like it's a compelling matchup. The Chiefs are a different team. The 49ers are a different team. The coaches are the same, but the teams themselves are pretty different. It's going to be a fun matchup. There's going to be a lot over the next 2 weeks. That's the one thing I hate about. I don't like the 2-week break. I don't. I just feel like it's too much. There's too much media coverage. There's too much. It's just too much. Cameron.
Cam,
Good
tune
Lord.
in next week. We'll talk some Superman versus Anakin Skywalker. You'll enjoy that.
Maybe. Although you're wrong, so it's fine.
I'll
We
break
could
it
just-
down
we
next
could- we
week.
could just
I
do a
will
whole
break
Star
it
Wars
down for
podcast,
you.
bro.
I'll break it down just like I did these NFL games.
Whoa, Billy. That's not what I said. I said they haven't played their best in the playoffs yet. That's what I said. The 49ers are still going to win. If the Chiefs play like they did last week against Baltimore, they will lose this game. 100%. But we'll talk more about it. I don't know what else we got. What else we got?
Big facts, my guy. Big facts, but we'll talk about why next week.
No way. No way. No way. I'm glad Andy's got my back because Andy's a good guy.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to change Andy's mind next week, too. Just watch. Just watch, my guy. Just watch. Just watch. You know I got away with words, and I can break things down a little bit. I think I might surprise some people with some of this information next week.
I'm hyped. I'm hyped.
I don't think there's a chance. Not a chance.
Yes.
Andy's too smart for
Pinky,
that. So.
Pinky, there's always a chance, my guy. There's
Never.
always a chance. Always. Pinky.
Never tell me the odds.
Same reason
Never
I don't
tell
want
me
games
the
against the
odds.
median in fantasy. Why don't I want games against the median in fantasy? Because the underdog wins sometimes. Sometimes the best team doesn't always come out victorious. Sometimes in sports, things happen that people didn't think were going to happen. Just throwing it out there. Just say it.
That happens in sports all the time. Otherwise, I'd be really rich sports betting.
Everybody would.
Hey, speaking of, Michigan State just won their basketball game against the Wolverines, so that's exciting.
Nobody
Against
gives
who?
a shit, Robert.
Against who?
The Wolverines.
Um,
Worth mentioning.
Nobody gives a shit.
I will say this, Cam. Regardless of what Michigan State does in the regular season, and we'll get to this
Not
in
Michigan
about a
State.
month. In about a month. Regardless of what Michigan State does in the regular season, if they're in the tourney, they're a favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pinky. Michigan State is the.
I make my dream bracket every year. One where they go all the way and one where they continue to lose in the 8th.
Pinky, there's literally not anything in sports that I can compare it to.
Michigan State basketball is Cinderella story.
Jayhawks, baby. Rock
No,
chalk.
they're not a Cinderella.
Rock chalk.
Michigan State will never be a Cinderella as long as Tom Izzo is there. I don't care what their seed is, because they have proven time and time again, if they're in the tournament, they're going to be a completely different team than they were in the regular season. They're just going to be better. I don't know how. They flip the switch and they go crazy. But we'll definitely be talking about that more. Biggie, we're not talking Senior Bowl for a couple different reasons. One,
Biggie,
we kind of lump that into our whole off-season discussion once the NFL's over and we start looking towards the draft and evaluating players. That kind of gets lumped into that. And two, for me personally, I don't give a shit about the Senior Bowl because 90% of the roster is a bunch of dudes who aren't playing at the next level. They just got invited because they're seniors. So to me, it's.
I think 90%. I think that's a little.
You
wrong,
know what
Caleb.
I mean? I'm exaggerating. I get it. It's probably closer to like 40%. But
Now, Biggie,
nonetheless,
if you want to come on and talk about the Senior Bowl, you are welcome. We'll send you an invite. You can come and educate us. I didn't pay attention. I usually get into my draft stuff right after the Super Bowl. So.
So yeah, Senior Bowl, blah. I feel like 90% is probably more accurate than people want to believe.
I bet that number's off.
It's way off, dude. Like I said, it's probably closer to 40, maybe even 30. But the fact of the matter is, it's not the best talent invited. You're literally only invited because you're a senior. So that to me instantly negates any importance that it has. If you're watching the Senior Bowl to evaluate talent, you already missed the boat. Period. You should have done that all season long. The Senior Bowl is not going to tell you shit.
There's some talent in the Senior Bowl.
I'm not saying there's not talent. I'm saying you shouldn't be evaluating the talent based on that game.
One of my favorite.
Like 4 practices. It's with nobody they've ever played with. The play calling is vanilla and generic. Like the Senior Bowl is not where you evaluate talent.
One of my favorite players of all time was a standout in the Senior Bowl. He happens to be also another reason why I love this jersey.
58, Von Miller.
Von Miller was in the Senior Bowl. So, again, Hall of Famers come from the Senior Bowl. It happens.
Cam, you're right. They did, but it's still it's not something you should be paying attention to, plain and simple. It's just not.
I think it matters. I just don't think you should be putting a gigantic stock in it.
Matters for what? I would evaluate 7-on-7s more than I would evaluate based on the Senior Bowl.
Oh, come on,
The
man.
Senior Bowl is like the Pro Bowl, Pinky. Guys aren't going out there to hit and play. They're going out there to enjoy the moment.
There's some guys. I guarantee you, Luke McCaffrey, who's at the Senior Bowl, is doing all he can at the Senior Bowl.
Which ain't going to be shit, and the dude's not going to play in the NFL. That's coming from somebody who watched him play a lot at Nebraska.
No, you watched the other
No, he
one.
was at Michigan. I know who you're talking about, though. I still saw
Luke
him
is
play.
Luke is a wide receiver, not the quarterback.
Luke started at Michigan, if I do remember correctly.
He started somewhere. He went to Rice. He actually has a draftable grade now. You're welcome. All right. Finish us up. Robert, words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Oh my goodness. Again, my biggest thing is Moneyball. Walks are good as hits. So field goals are as good as touchdowns in my book. I know Caleb thinks that with the two that there was, again, I still think at least one should have been made.
There's no Dylan McCaffrey, Cam.
So that's my word of wisdom.
Is there a Dylan
walks are
McCaffrey?
good as
I'm pretty
hits.
sure there is, bro.
But yeah, that's where I'll leave things with the NFL side of it. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't got much. I'm waiting for this
Yes,
month.
there is a Dylan McCaffrey, bro.
The only McCaffreys that anybody needs to know about are Ed and his son, CMC. The rest of them don't matter. Trust me.
We shall see. We shall see. Luke's getting some hype. We'll see. We'll see. I love draft.
That means Luke was the one at Nebraska then.
Let's see. Let's look at it. Luke was at Nebraska. Yes.
Dylan was Michigan. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Cam. Luke
Good
ain't
looking
shit.
out.
Plain and simple, Luke ain't shit. I had high hopes for him at Nebraska. Dude couldn't get on the field in the Scott Frost era. That's a problem.
Well, he was also a quarterback at Nebraska. He switched to wide receiver, and now he's got a draftable grade.
Yeah, why would you switch after you leave? Oh, because you know you can't play the position and nobody else is going to let you.
Who knows? Who knows?
Sorry, Cam. I took some of your thunder there. My bad.
He's just like that. He's an a-hole. It's okay. We love him anyways.
My bad, Cam.
About to
Robert,
hop on here.
Robert, go ahead. You were saying. I apologize to you as well, sir.
You're good. I actually didn't have much to say. I firmly stand on the belief. Again, I know baseball, football, totally different. Field goals in some instances are as good as touchdowns, whether or not you go for them. Walks are as good as hits. It has been statistically proven. I will stand behind that. And that's why I personally think, like, in at least one instance, 50% of the time, you got two chances, at least take one.
I'm with you, Robert, because I think in this situation, in that game, if they would have gone for the first one, they could have been up 17. Maybe not if he doesn't make it. And the second one, they could have tied the game. And that might change things. Instead of being down 10, they may have been down 7.
Yep.
That could have changed things.
But those are my words of wisdom. I mean, I'm just as guilty of it when I play Madden. I will always go for 2. But in the real life situation, you got to make the smart move at times, and that might have been the smart move. Reviewing it, that's what sticks out the most in my head. That would have been different in that game.
Oh, damn it. I mean, you're not wrong, Billy. You're not wrong. Why have we not drank with Billy yet? Billy's in town, right, Caleb?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with Billy there, but I'm not going to go into my baseball takes right now because
Because you'd be wrong. It's fine.
we're not going to go into that.
Baseball season's coming
that
soon.
whole-
We'll get there. We'll get there. That's soon.
Anytime you put men on base and you force the action is a good thing in baseball, and people need to start remembering that. Analytics has killed baseball. Analytics, I don't believe, had anything to do with Dan Campbell. I fully believe he made those decisions based on gut feel and situational football.
gross.
He looked at that and said,
Gross.
basically, if we convert these, we control the game. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. I don't believe he was reckless with those decisions. I believe he was aggressive, and I will always appreciate aggressive over someone who wants to be conservative.
Now hold on.
It's proven in the history of the NFL that field goals will be missed and cost you games.
Brandon Staley played the same way, and yet he doesn't have a job anymore. So
Brandon Staley didn't have. First of all, I believe Brandon Staley made more decisions based on analytics than guts, which I think is the opposite of Dan Campbell. I could be wrong. That's just my feel. Secondly, Brandon Staley didn't have good play calling pretty much ever, where Dan Campbell has, and that's a big deal.
Kellen Moore sucks as a play caller. Duly noted.
I'm not going to go that far yet. He
was the Chargers play caller multiple times this season.
He has taken himself out of position to be a head coach right now, which 2 years ago I would have not thought was possible. Here's what I'll say as far as my final thoughts. Coaching in the NFL matters more than any other sport on the planet. And when you have poor coaching, you are going to see poor results.
Are you saying coaching in the NFL?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Coaching in the NFL. Go ahead.
Football in general, but coaching in the NFL, the coach, the play callers, the assistants have more control over the outcome of a game than any other sport. They matter. Every other sport, as far as I'm concerned, you can do player coach and it's going to be the same for the most part. You're not doing that in the NFL. You're not. It just doesn't work that way. So when you have bad coaching, you have poor play calling, it will ruin you. And no matter how good the players are, they are not overcoming that. They're not. There's no way around it. And I think what we witnessed this weekend is a terrible game plan and play calling the whole game from Baltimore. And you had terrible play calling on the offensive side in Detroit in the second half. And coaching cost both those teams games, not players on the field. That's my personal opinion. I don't like saying it. I don't like being retroactive in the thought process, if you will. But as I'm watching these games, those were my thoughts. And had they changed their thought process during the course of the game, we would be talking about, I believe, very different outcomes today.
I agree with you on that statement, Caleb.
Completely.
Lions should have won. Ravens should have won.
Yep.
But they didn't.
Yep.
So we have a Chiefs, Niners, Super Bowl.
Now Pinky's so excited to watch the Chiefs. We all know it.
So with that being said, next week we've got Super Bowl conversation and some nerd out Anakin Skywalker versus Superman.
And much more nerd stuff.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
There could be more nerd stuff. It may be the most that Pinky has not talked in a long time. Since the last time we talked baseball or soccer. One of the two.
Which, Caleb, that is one tangent I will request we talk about here soon. I do want to pick your brain on the men's national team conversation.
Easy peasy. We can do that at any time, my guy. Probably 2 weeks from now, after the Super Bowl is come and gone, and we can recap and then dive into that a little bit. I'm down.
Oh, yeah.
On that note, appreciate all the love and support from everybody. Seriously, like, we would do this even if nobody's watching us, just because we love to chop it up. But the fact that we have people willing to listen and interact with us means the world to us. And there's no words to truly describe how we feel about it, other than just say we appreciate you all a lot.
This fucking guy.
On that note, do not ever waste the opportunity or take for granted the opportunity of being able to spend that quality time with your inner circle.
Amen.
Loved ones, friends, blood, not blood, I don't care. If they mean something to you and you love that person, take advantage of the opportunity to talk to, hang out with, see whatever it is that interacts with that.
What is the best thing about a Super Bowl party?
Everybody hangs out.
Friends and family all hanging out. Vested interest or not, you're spending time together. That's what I love about that.
That actually was probably one of my most favorite memories from when I lived in Europe. I believe it was Tom Brady. Was it the Panthers?
Cam, there's always drinks, baby.
It's
There's always
2013.
drinks.
It was the Super Bowl from the 2013 to 14 season. Or no, excuse me, the 14 to 15 season. I'd been there for a month, and I literally was invited by all these Germans that I had only known for a week to come and watch the Super Bowl. Because they're like, this is what brings us together. They're like, pick up some wings from work, come in. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're just up watching all this football, talking it. Probably by far one of the best experiences. So please do not let it go for granted, because those are some of the best memories that you can make. Hands down.
Fellas, appreciate you. Until next week, everybody, cheers. We're out.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles.